No worries.
You're fine.
All right, rock and roll, Bob.
All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The first, let's see who's present. Let's have a roll call.
Okay, Bob, just call everyone's name out is how we're supposed to do it. So let's go down the list. And
Andrea,
Here.
Brendan,
here,
Melanie,
Here?
Nick,
here,
Pamela,
Here.
let's see. And the only other member, Alan. Alan Slattery is not present.
okay, no Alan. Noted. And we
All right.
started at 7:02, right?
7:02.
Got it.
All right, first item on the agenda was approval of April's minutes. I'm sure we've all had a chance to read them. Does anybody have anything that conflicts with anything that was written down? All right.
I'll
Do
move
I
to
hear
approve the minutes.
motion to approve? Seconded. Okay, Brendan, do your thing.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Pamela,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
and last but not least me, I say yay.
Okay,
And it's approved.
the minutes have been approved. Second item on the agenda is correspondence and communications. I wanted to place some emphasis on this particular item, even though there's really only two things that have come up since our last meeting. The first one, I sent you an email. I referred to it as Bob Fagoni thinking out loud. I can't send out emails holding discussions about items with you all. So I will think out loud and send these thoughts out to you so that we can come back together and as a committee address them. And the item that I sent out was in reference to, and we have to say hello to Councilor Laura Wagner, who is in the peanut gallery, and Councilor Samantha Perlman, and who is in the peanut gallery. And I don't know if Mike Ossing is available, but if he's there, welcome. But in reference to one of Laura Wagner's residents in her ward, this business about 982 East Boston Post Road, it comes down to a situation that I think is almost existential to this group. It's why this group exists, if you think about it. A gentleman builder contractor calls in and requests information about demolition and of a particular property because the property has been damaged in the past by fire. Now, it's not just any property. It's 982 Boston Post Road East, which is one of the old 1.5 story Cape Cod buildings, one of the last remaining of those buildings in Marlborough. It also sits at the entranceway to Marlborough from the east. So we as a group have been working on putting together a demolition delay ordinance of our own making. It's in process, and we are working on that. But what the point now is, what do we do? how do we address this situation with this builder and this owner or prospective owner? How do we do that? And I'm available for advice.
Can I ask a couple of questions about the property?
Sure.
So is the builder and the owner the same person?
No.
Okay. So
I
there's,
haven't been able to find out who. haven't really asked, but I
Okay.
just had conversations with the builder, who's the only one that's had conversations with me.
I see.
And
The
he's-
owner's name is Curly.
I'm
the
sorry?
owner- The current owner right now, as
Yeah.
Pamela has just mentioned, his name is Curly.
Okay.
However, it's the prospective new owner, a prospective buyer who wants
Who's
to
asking the question.
the question.
I see. Okay.
The prospective buyer thinks that renovation of particularly with the fire damage, is way too much money to renovate the building and keep it quote unquote as is.
Okay. And my other question is when I looked it up, it appeared that there were two buildings on the property. And it
Let's see.
appeared as though the older one, which I think is the fire damaged one, is like 1700s.
Yes.
And then there's another property on it, another building that's 1825-ish. I don't know if you guys saw that too, but I was curious about that and how that plays into our discussion.
The entire piece of property is quite large. The building itself is a single building that has been added onto. That second building, I think it's being used as a garage or construction or something.
It looked like it was another dwelling, but I'm not
positive. I think it's a barn.
It's a barn, and then the other part of this, Andrea, is there's a significant chunk, over 20 acres of land that belongs. It's a separate parcel, but it's the same owner.
Oh, okay. So
the conversation here, the reason why they reached out is, I'm sure, and this is what we need to learn, is this just a tip of the iceberg, right? So is this just something that people have reached out about, the concern about the one structure, or is this part of some other larger initiative for that property? So that's kind of, I feel like we need to learn more about if their plans are, face value, which is what the note that, if we take the note and face value that Bob got, it's there's too much damage to rebuild the house, and again, that could be up for debate. To repair the house, so it needs to be a tear down. So now the question is, well, are we just putting another house there, or are we looking for? Are we going to be down the road looking for a special permit to rezone the area, or any additional projects? I guess is what the sort of the tip of the iceberg here.
So I get that might be a concern, but I would just caution us to know kind of what our role is in this process. If our role is to look at historic buildings and, advocate for preservation, that's where we should be. But what they do with the land, that to me is another question for another group. To be
Absolutely. I agree, Andrea. And I think I think listening to this, and Pamela and Nick, if anybody wants to jump in behind what I say, I think I would like to invite the builder and the prospective buyer to come to our next meeting and answer these questions. Is it just a matter of putting up a single residence that he's interested in, or what is the situation? Because it's our responsibility as a historical commission to at least bring forward the idea that this is the entryway to Marlborough on Route 20 East. It's the entryway. It's a historic building. It's in a historic setting. And it's our responsibility to at least bring up to a prospective buyer some kind of stewardship if they plan on taking the property. We can't order them to do anything, but we can at least make them know that the city of Marlborough, through us, the residents of Marlborough, through us, can say, well, geez, Louise, you know, is there some way we can preserve at least the original part of the building, even if nothing else?
Okay, so can I make a suggestion? If I would certainly welcome, you know, anyone to come and kind of tell us what they're thinking and what their obstacles are and so on and so forth. I have no problem with that. I'd be interested to know, in fact. If we're going to do that, I feel like we should have some questions that we can pose in advance so that whoever it is that's coming can speak to that. So we're not, you know, we're not catching anyone terribly off guard.
Absolutely.
And one of the questions that I would have is somebody has made the assessment that the fire damage or the smoke damage, whatever the damage is either beyond repair or too expensive to repair. And
Yes.
I'd be curious to know what the basis for that determination is. Was there an insurance report that said that? Is this an assessment of the owner himself or the builder? Like who made that? Because I don't have the expertise to know that myself. I'd be curious to know if there is an expert who has made that determination and if there's documentation to that effect. I'd be very curious about that.
Right, and I think the builder is the one that I think is, I don't know if he's pushing it.
Or Mr. Curley, his insurance company may have said something. I don't know, but all I know is I did drive by that area and the windows are all boarded up and it's a very sad situation right now. So, you know, I'd be curious to know where they're in the process of determinations.
Pamela, you've actually been in the building, haven't you?
I was there the night of the fire and I was inside the building. I believe it's boarded more for security than about any damage.
Okay.
The fire started in a kitchen area in the back of the house that had obviously been added at a much later time. I would say as early as the 50s. It had been updated since then. There was a good sized gas stove in there and so on, you know, looked like really something professional.
Right. But
it was the fire was stopped before it got to the house.
Sure.
So Marlborough Fire did a terrific job. There was a minor amount of smoke damage in the hallway leading from that kitchen, but not into the rest of the house. It's painfully apparent that the current owner, who oddly enough was an appraiser for many, many years before he retired, has been having some severe physical and mental issues. Since his wife died a couple of years ago, he's having difficulty taking care of himself and taking care of the property. So what I was seeing above and beyond any smoke or fire damage was a property that had not that it was necessarily falling apart by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, that thing is going to stand forever. But there were areas that hadn't been cleaned in a long time. There were areas that, you know, needed attention, drapes that had been up for a long time that really should have come down to be washed or disposed of, sort of thing. That's the kind of clean out that's required there. We removed very little from the site that night. The only thing we ended up taking was 7 long guns, and that was for the protection of anyone who tried to break in. The front of the building was not damaged in any way, shape, or form, but we had a real fear of people trying to get into the building.
Yes,
There
yes.
was a lot of material in the building, personal material, that could
Yeah.
have been of great worth. So that's why they really went above and beyond. The second building in that property was undamaged completely.
Right.
No one's living there, but it's being used as an office for a landscaping company.
Yes, that's
Okay.
what it is. Yeah.
All right. Because that
and
building
Mr.
was, Pamela, that when I looked at the record, it looked like that was like 1825 or so.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's been updated over the years.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's a separate electrical service that comes in from the street from there.
Okay.
All right, all right. Let's keep this in mind too. Thank you, Pam. Let's
Yep.
keep this in mind too, that the responsibility of the Historical Commission, as far as I can figure out in my own head, we have to think about this as a piece of property viewed by the public from a public way.
Mhm.
So whatever goes on the inside of the house is, for all intents and purposes, not our responsibility.
Right.
The other thing is, if we can somehow secure, as I say, the oldest part of the building, which is the building that has the central part of the building, which has the central big smoke chimney, that central part of the building, if we can even preserve just that part of it in the process as it goes on of being renovated, I think we've done our job. If we can't secure the old kitchen or whatever is out back, or
That's got to come down anyway.
yeah, so I think what we want to do is to get these people together so that we can talk intelligently with them. And I think, Andrea, what you're saying about having questions available up front to, let them see that we're not here to tell them not to do anything, but to tell them or to ask them if they can salvage a piece of history in the process of them moving forward.
If I could, I think that we need to have some other cards on deck, if you will.
Lay it out, Pamela.
We need to be able to work with any developer or with any builder to perhaps direct them to places where they might receive funding. Bob, you and I have spoken in the past from someone who lives at Faulty Towers. I can tell you,
Yeah,
renovation ain't cheap.
yeah, right.
And I think if we can say that there are certain things that there are, state programs available, if in fact that's the case, if there's tax items available, if in fact that's the case. Another consideration would be if he genuinely feels and he has an engineer's report that says that the whole structure is beginning to whatever, then can we talk about what they did at Avalon Orchards up the street? Can we replicate? Can we replicate the house, and you can do whatever you want with the back 23 acres if that's part of the deal, kind of thing. So I think we have to be prepared to offer some suggestions up to and including maybe having somebody who does, what do you call it, can take things out of the house to preserve it for a use in another location at some point.
Resource.
Right.
Yes. Okay. All right. So it seems to me then, next thing for us to do is to get together a list of either questions or items that should be discussed first initially, and bring them in to help explore these questions and items. And there's a number of them, what Andrea brought up and what Pamela just brought up. I'm thinking out loud here, team. You guys can help me since I'm new at the process. working out lists of things on our own, shuttling them back and forth amongst ourselves in emails. Is that outside of what we're asked to do as a group? Do we have to do everything?
I think that's going to be a question for Mr. Kerrigan, I think, as to whether or not that constitutes a
working outside the
right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pam. Appreciate you throwing me under the bus like that.
All right.
Feel free anytime, honey.
Sure. Okay. Bob, you just have to be careful about what you're discussing in emails, because if a majority of the board is discussing it, that it can constitute a meeting, and it would be a violation of the open meeting law. So I mean, you have, if you're firing emails around to everybody, getting opinions, getting, so I would be very careful of that. If you're talking amongst one or two, I mean, it may be okay, but you start getting into majority of the board and saying, oh, what, almost taking quasi votes, then yes, that would be a violation of the open meeting law.
Yes.
Well, the suggestion I would make then, thanks for that, Steve, that makes sense.
Thank you, Steve.
I don't see why we can't spend maybe 5 minutes now.
Yeah, I agree.
This is an important item, and if we lose something off the agenda because of this today, I think we can spend the time brainstorming. I mean, it sounds to me like we already have 2 questions, or 1 question, 1 piece of advice that we can agree upon, and then if we, to Pamela's point, where we need to we're offered the resources, I don't see that there's a problem that we can't fill in that blank later, but at least we determine that we're going to ask question 1, which is who says so? Who said that it's told? And then the second item, again, Pam, is these are some options we'd like to provide you for preservation. So it's that sort of we're curious, we want to engage, but also we have something to offer. A question I would have would be, what are the long-term plans for the property vis-a-vis the whole structure, both the existing structure, so we can ignore the large bit in the back, but to say, are we going to keep the barn, or are we going to raise all of the structures to rebuild?
I would also ask the question if they've considered preservation options already. Silence.
Okay. No, I'm writing it down. I like it.
Got
I
it.
have trouble. I'm an unbelievably poor typist, and I can't type and talk at the same time, which is a giant professional thing.
You know what? I'm taking notes too, Brendan. So don't worry too much about it.
Okay, preservation options. Have they considered preservation?
Have they considered it, and what ideas have they come up with, if any? I mean, it's clearly on their mind if they're contacting us, right? That they're concerned about.
Well, I think they were referred by the building commissioner.
I think he's contacting because he's an intelligent builder that's probably run across demolition delay ordinances in the past. That's probably his starting point.
Yeah, that was the specific communication was relative to, he was aware that there wasn't a historic review period, stand brand, Bob.
Yes.
Ordinance in Marlborough, but that there is a historic commission, so there's a little bit of a gray area there, so that's why he's contacted it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, even if we post the question up front and invite him to a meeting, maybe that gets his wheels turning about, well, what are some of the things I could do to preserve aspects of this? Or what are some of the things I've done in the past if he's had any experience with this at all?
And then we have, to use Pam's idea, then we have in our gun the suggested resources for either preservation of the building itself, tax credits, whatever we can come up with in the interim before the meeting, but also because when we do the initial, we can agree tonight what the initial communication would be, but then we say that there are additional resources available, and we'd love to discuss that so that that gives time to pull that together. And again, if it sounds like Pamela's trying to be sensitive and hint at that there's some really cool stuff in there that we don't want to lose to a dumpster.
Right. or somebody could take advantage of it. Pam, can I ask that you and I work together to find out sources of or resources that someone might have?
Yeah, I have a couple of contacts I can call.
Definitely. Okay, good. And because I know most of what I've seen as far as taxes are concerned are in reference to income producing properties.
Right, TIFs and so on. But I believe that there may be some, there may be, I was on the state's website tonight and looking at a couple of things that I'd have to look at a little further. Something you should also be aware of that you may not be is that we had a discussion earlier this week in the building department. Anytime a house is being demoed or anytime demolition is to take place, especially for a building that may be of historic significance but is not in a historic district, under the state building code, there are requirements for notification for neighbors and for hearing periods and so on. So it would be to this individual's advantage to meet with us ahead of time. And we might be able to suggest that it might be, if it has to go to demolition after we've gone through everything, it might go a little easier if we've already gone through all of the question and answers.
Pamela, do you know the statute? Do you have a citation for that, or do you?
It's under 780 CMR under the state building code.
780 CMR.
Right.
Okay, so it's right.
I love that approach too, as far as just also promoting the board and how we can again be helpful here.
Right, because we're looking at properties again specifically that aren't in a historical district.
Correct.
Right.
Our commission is to look for things that are outside of that district but still of some significance. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Very good. I'll run a couple of ideas myself with you, Pamela, and maybe we can put our heads together and come up with a list of some sort.
Okay.
So then as a board, so we stay kosher with the public meeting laws. The board agrees then that we will approve the questions that we've already discussed have been approved, and then you and Pam are going to put your heads together as far as the resources and then send out the communication to potentially have them at our next meeting, or
can we get that done, do you think, by then?
Well, we can certainly get, I don't think we want to put it off too long because you don't want to lose the guy.
Yeah.
correct.
And
That's what I'm concerned with too.
Yeah. The other thing.
I'm happy to draft sort of the language and send it to you, including the questions, and putting out there that, we are looking at potential resources, which we'd be gladly discuss with you, and, and then point out the 780 CMR.
Well, I'm sure he's aware of that, but yeah.
Yeah. So I can do all that. Did he reached out to you via email? Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so maybe just an email correspondence back, but I'm happy to kind of craft that and send that over to you, and you can look it over and send it out if you want.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Before I have another question about the property. Do we know anything about the property historically speaking? Is it,
Did Washington sleep there? I don't know.
No.
Yeah, did Washington sleep there? That's the question.
Teddy Roosevelt played cards there. No, I don't know that.
It's 1750s. It's 1750s. The original building.
Right.
It's 1750s. The name of the family was Darling. The Amos
Amos and Jonas Darling House.
Darling House.
It was
zoned after them too. And the only other item that might come up as a selling point for us, and for the reason why we're involved, this was one of the properties that Henry Ford looked at. I think it even in purchased with the
Wayside Inn.
the Wayside Inn and the
Martha Mary Chapel.
the businesses just down where Stephen Anthony's is, that little a shopping complex, those old buildings right on Hager Pond. So Henry Ford was involved with this property as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the Macris data also lists it out, as the Amos Jonas Darling House, but it also has it listed in the same item as the Jones Tavern Ephraim Hager House,
Yes.
and it's marked as a historic tavern.
It's a tavern?
It was a tavern at one time. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see that if you're on the inside.
You
Oh,
could.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I mean, yeah, there's a lot. This is a lot
Over the years, it's been morphed into more than one thing, and it's very old. So
Do we have Ann Forbes's write-up on the
Yes.
property?
I have it in my possession.
Okay, good.
Oh, so there's a write-up on this property too?
Oh, absolutely. And I think just as an aside to everybody in the group, if you're not really familiar with the historic properties item that Ann Forbes put together, it's 5 volumes. It's housed in the Marlborough Public Library. I think it's housed in City Hall too, in the clerk's office. But it's also easily accessible via Marlborough Historical Society,
It's on the
their
historical website. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I think
It might be worthwhile. The reason why I ask is if there is something like that, it might be worthwhile to drop a link in or something and read about the history of the property. There you go.
Absolutely. Just even a Xerox 3 pages is of value.
Preservation by education, Bob. That's what we're all about.
There you go.
There you go. No, I agree. The only person, the only person that I want to jump in here at this time, Nick, if you want to say, or Melanie, if you want to say something at this time to add to this, please do.
There is something that I've been thinking about here.
Sure.
It looks on a small little stream that goes between the Gristmill Pond and the Hager Pond. Has Priscilla Ryder been involved in looking at what the renovations are?
Well,
Amusing that you should bring that up.
Yeah.
We have been in court, we came very close to being in court with the owner of that property when his landscaping company, or the landscaping company that operated out of there, cleared within the part of the property that they're not supposed to clear in the Rivers Act. We went back and forth for several times, and that's why you will see that the property to the left, as you're facing the property, has been restored as far as the grass and so on. So anything from 50, was it 50 feet from the Rivers Act? I'm trying to think of which one it is. She is aware of it, but I'll be more than glad to give her a message about what has to happen, or if she has any interest in it.
Okay.
Yes, in the back of the property, that large piece of land is all, I think, wetlands back there. It's many acres behind there. Nick, is there anything at this point you want to add or question?
No, I'm tracking all. I like the plan. We're serving our role in the advisory capacity, and I think we got some good ideas. So I'm tracking all of it. Good.
We'll call on your expertise in the future. Believe me, Councilor Wagner. If you've listened in, if there's anything that you would like to say at this time, you're more than welcome to participate at this time.
I appreciate that. Thank you. As I'm listening to you talk, that's what I was thinking about, what the role of state versus municipal government is. And I did come across, there's something called the Layperson's Guide and Historical Preservation Law. And then I was looking at the law that I think governs this commission. It's Chapter 40, Section 8D.
Yes.
And it talks about, I mean, because I'm thinking if this really goes back, and I don't know, I mean, you've got the right to assess if it's really that old. There could be anything on the property, and you're supposed to alert archaeologists. I mean, there could be indigenous burial sites. I don't know how anyone's ever really looked at the land. So, I mean, I feel like there's enough questions that you've raised and other things that I don't know. Maybe that report you mentioned from oh, I missed her name, from
Ann
Ann
Forbes.
Forbes. If she assessed all that, maybe you've got that knowledge. But I mean, yeah, it sounds most definitely like this needs to be at least slowed down, and at least being in conversation with the builder might help. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like I'm not an expert in the legal area. Maybe talking to the city solicitor, because if this is somebody that, you know, doesn't care, wants to raise it, and, you know, who knows what they want to build there. I think we need to be really clear about what we can stop and what we have no power to prevent.
Yes. We, all along, Counselor, all along, this group has known that we don't really have policing authorities per se, but if we can at least begin now in Marlborough to get this attitude of preservation by education, by, you know, out loud bumping into as many resources and people as we can, I think we're doing our job. Whether there are archaeological sites and whatnot, I think that's I
mean, I only bring that up because if they're going to come in, you don't know. Are they going to start major excavation? Or are they going to put? You don't know that, you know.
That's true. That's true. We won't know until something happens. You're absolutely right.
So I was only thinking of things that might prevent, like if they're required to at least do some kind of assessment before they dig it up and put a giant mansion in that place or something, to at least buy some time. And I get that you don't want to be a policing organization, but there is, it seems like, and if this ends up going just sadly a failed effort, then there should be something. This is a warning. There should be something on the book somewhere working with city council to prevent things like this happening.
Yes. And also, Laura, you were not aware of what we've been doing previous to this. We as a group don't call demolition delay. We're working on an ordinance that really is a historical period, a review
period. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Historical review period. That's what we're working on. And that's what we will try to bring very soon to the mayor and to the city council.
Okay.
So that's in the works.
There are a number of communities across Massachusetts that have, for want of a better term, demolition delay orders that go anywhere from a 6-month issue to a multi-year issue. And that's not really our intention. At the end of the day, people get to do what they get to do. What we hope to do is educate someone who may be unaware of the avenues that may be available to them, and may be unaware of the deep history of something. But at the end of the day, the best we can do is make recommendations, and I think that's the best any historic commission in any community can do, unless of course we're willing to purchase the property.
Yeah. Does the Mass Historical Society, is that a resource? Like when you talked about funds, is there a place that you can go? Is something like that could tell you what's available?
They may be able to give you some grant information. There may be some information available. Whether or not it's sufficient to keep someone from developing, it's going to depend on what that individual has for an intention for the entire project. And they may be unwilling to share that.
Yeah, right up front.
Right up front.
Yeah, right.
That was my concern when we first heard that they were going to take it down because it was so badly damaged. As I said, I was there the night of the fire. No, it wasn't that badly damaged. But I don't know what else is in play.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
think let's make contact. Let's make an intelligent contact with the people who have contacted us and bring them before us and try to support their needs and have them see our needs as we as citizen engineers, as we should present them to them. Okay. I think I heard Andrea say she would work up some verbiage for a memo, and I would appreciate, at your convenience, Andrea, passing that on for our review, especially for Pamela and our review. Is that correct?
So yeah, I mean, I will draft something that captures our questions and makes reference to the various regulations, and make an offer to attend our next meeting so that we can discuss the questions and maybe support them with, ideas about potential resources. That's kind of the nature of the communication that I'm going to for you to send out to reply. Good?
That sounds very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
In reference to correspondence and communications, there was one that came up recently, and I think I passed on the original email from them, the law firm of Bowditch in Framingham. It's in reference to 3 properties on Lincoln Street and 1 property on Mechanic Street. And they were asking if any of those properties were historically significant. And I just wrote back to them, to the attorney, saying that the 3 properties listed on Lincoln Street are not on any Massachusetts special list. They're not in Macris. But the building on Mechanic Street, which is Roland's house, which is the building that houses what is it?
SMOC, the Southern Middlesex Opportunity Council.
Yes, the SMOC building. That's actually within a local historic district, and I informed them of that. And I informed them that if any major work were to be done on the Mechanic Street property, it would have to be reviewed by the local historic district commission and the city of Marlborough. We are not the local historic district commission, but at least I put that out there to them, and I'll let the legal eagles in City Hall, if it comes up, I'll let them pursue that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was built in 1908.
Yes. Yes. And geez, it's just a curious thing that there is a local historic district, and I don't think anybody here knows who is the local historic district committee. So
Yeah, we don't know.
No, definitely something to take up maybe at another time.
Yes, and that is for the legal department. Laura, I just wanted to mention too that we seem to be finished with 982. If there's another meeting that you want to go to, thank you very much for being here and supporting us. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay. So I do know that you were cut in 2 here. Okay.
3, thank you very much. I am going to step out and try to go to I think it was conservation tonight.
Okay.
So I really appreciate all the work that you're doing, and thank you so much for letting me know about tonight's meeting.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, and this might be our last out of the chute project here. Brendan, last time we were together, we brought up this idea of working on the list. We brought up the idea of starting our train of thought, starting our energy working toward.
So I would ask whoever is hosting our meeting right now, could they give me permission to share the screen?
Yes, give me 1 second.
How quaint, you have to ask permission. I'm used to Zoom. Give me the screen.
All right.
All right. Okay. Give me a second. All right, can you see my screen?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
How about now?
I see.
See what looks like a spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Bingo, bingo.
All righty, so here's the macros list. Now, I have to give credit to Nat in the Nat Bowen in the GIS office. He gave me some pieces to cobble together. So what I've done is I've combined the macros list with a list of wards and precincts so that we understand where all these places physically are. And then I've actually merged it with the carpenter list. So what we have here now is, and this is just there's a whole pile of data. It wasn't, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, it wasn't easy because there's a lot of incongruities between the data sources, but there's 50 or so houses that are in the, on the macros list that are on the carpenter painting list. So you have that common thread to work together. Interesting fact, not all the carpenter paintings are houses in Marlborough. Some of them,
At least two of them.
yeah, some of them are in Hudson, Sudbury, and Northborough.
Right.
Fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, very cool. It was a
At
fun
one
project, just to say the least.
At one
But
point, many of a part of Hudson and Sudbury were in Marlborough.
yes, all of Hudson was Marlborough at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think a good portion of it was.
Yeah.
In Westboro.
All of it was, Pam, yes.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
again,
all of Hudson was part of Marlborough one time till 1866.
that's what I thought. That's what I thought. So we've identified, we've talked about it, and what I will do is after our call, I'll distribute this for review purposes, because again, what the idea is, and then we can reconnect at our next meeting. But these are what I believe, on what we've been talking about. This list represents the most important properties to preserve. And then these are just the districts that they're in so that we can do our physical drive-bys.
Yes.
I've created this in such a way that we can look at the entire macros list and expand that project. But as far as actually going through, some of these I did a tentative little street view exercise, and I think it does make sense to lay eyes on them. Some of the addresses are a little off.
Okay.
Between all the lists, I deferred to the macros list as the right one, but I kept notes of the ones that are off. So if whoever's managing the Carpenter database, wherever that sheet came from, they might need to make a little update. But it was just a habit of mine when I'm going through data like this. I'm always gonna make note of what I changed or what I didn't know, and then how to fit it. Stuff that I made to fit in.
Right, Brendan. That was me that did the Carpenter list, and I can assure you there were a couple of them where I'm looking at the Google Maps of what I'm assuming is the building, and it ain't the number that is recorded on Macris. So I sort of fudged a couple of those numbers.
Okay, cool. I went by Macris, or if that didn't make, there was a couple that there was one on South Street where even the Macris didn't make sense.
Yes.
And it's actually, if you Google Earth it and look at the side of the house, the number's painted on the side of the house. So at least that's the address the mail's going to.
Okay.
So I feel like our next steps here, again, are to review offline, and then when we get together next to actually vote on this and say, okay, this is the list of our properties of interest, and that we're going to focus our part of our next steps on that. So this again helps frame the conversation of our historical review period ordinance, and this frames our discussion of the house sign project, where we've talked about producing and featuring the most historic houses. Now, on this particular form of this list that you see here, there's, of course, 982 is not on it because there's no carpenter painting for it. So that's why we need to kind of take a look at the data on the data tab. It's all been cleaned out, but you can sort through this and understand, the entirety of it. And then there's the tags that I've put in on the end, vis-a-vis stuff that's National Register eligible. So then again, you have time as individuals to review the data. Now it's been sort of sanitized. And then I think when we get together next time, we should be able to, I'd like to be able to get together and then vote on this and enter it into the record as these are the properties that the Historical Commission is most interested in preserving and helping folks if they have any potential development to facilitate that in a responsible way.
What a great job you've done.
Absolutely.
Yay, Brendan.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Very, very impressed.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry it took so long. But it's just been, I'm still unemployed, but I did find some time to, in my unemployed and sleeping late nights to put this together over the last couple weeks. So, and then again, it was all Matt that helped me do it as far as tying together he gave me two pieces of the puzzle to tie it together so that we can understand ward and precincts. Also, too, that it's just good information to have. It was wonderful tonight. We have Samantha with us tonight, and then when we had Laura with us tonight, it's like this is good because we know whose districts these are in, and we can approach people and be responsible about it when we're talking with folks about the ordinance itself.
Yes.
We've framed this in as we're not looking to become a blanket no birds. We're not looking to be no birds. We want to be responsible members of this community and preserve what we can and understand that not everything is savable. So I guess as far as what I'm going to put down in the minutes, I'll distribute this for individual review, and then when we meet at our next meeting, I'd like to be able to have a conversation about it, and then potentially vote on this as our area. We can make some changes to it and adjustments to it then, and then vote on it as our area of focus.
That's great.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Brendan. Brendan, a quick question. The larger format.
I lost everybody.
Oh.
Oops.
Are you there? Are you with us?
Can you hear me, Bob?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
It's just a little tweet.
Okay.
The team is a little pretty like this, so that's okay.
I don't need your screen. I just had a quick question. The larger list that you were showing us, Brendan, it looked like the Macris list that you were massaging. Can that one be broken down by ward?
Yep, can now.
Amazing.
It already is. So I just showed you just actually, give me a second.
That's great. Jeez.
Yeah, he's got it broken down by warden precinct.
Yeah. You guys are good.
All right, can you see my screen?
Now I can't. Oh, there's who is that?
Oh, it's Teddy Roosevelt taking out a
Teddy
bear.
Roosevelt.
Oh, it's Teddy Roosevelt shooting Sasquatch. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Oh, all right. Okay. Won't hold it against you.
So yeah, I've got so everything here now, when you're looking at the ward and the precincts, there's some NAs because in the map, water tanks, stuff that didn't have street addresses,
Yeah.
I just skipped over.
Yeah.
I can go back in and re-tag those based on kind of where they are in the street. Again, I was just trying to do this quick and dirty.
Yeah. No. That's the only question I had, and you've
Yeah.
answered.
Nope.
Thank
And
you.
then the only other caveat to that too is there's some streets where, again, there was some funkiness with the addresses, and there were some streets that the ward line is right down the middle of the street. So you have there were a couple where I had to guess because like odd numbers are on one side and even numbers on the other. So I used some logic like that to sort of fill in the blanks. I wasn't throwing any darts at boards, but so there might be one or two incongruities in here when you're looking at it, saying this isn't like, shouldn't be necessarily an end all be all in its current form, but when you're looking at it, you're blazing through the data. That's how I put the ward and the precinct in there. So yeah, there's somewhere I had to fill in the blanks.
I'm sure for our purposes, it'll be really, really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if we're doing inspections, the smart play is to probably is to take another swing at this list. And then the streets that have like the split districts, we just kind of call it one district.
Mhm.
And then, when we're assigning the list for people to go look at the house, drive down the street and look at the properties, it's like, okay, well, you're going to be on South Street anyway. Just take a look at all the ones on South Street.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What I would like to see also as an outcome of this work, Brendan and team, is I would like to not just have a computer file with this information in it, especially this business about historical homes, historical properties. I would like the building department to have, not a very sophisticated publication, but a publication, something to put on a shelf or maybe to put on one or two shelves where they can make reference to a piece of property literally off the shelf. They can go to it off the shelf as opposed to looking for it in a file somewhere. I'd like it to be published, is what I'm saying.
The way that this is designed, Bob, the way I built this out, because this is just in a regular Excel spreadsheet, and the way I sanitized and tagged the data, a web developer, a high school kid doing web development, could carve this up and put it on a web page very easily. So you could, the scheme is already clean. So you could just, if we get some resources to publish it online, either in the building department or on the historical commission's website, we could produce it that way rather than a printed book.
Well, okay, yes. Maybe it's because I'm an old fart. It's just that I really would like it also to be in hard copy form.
I'll print it for you then.
All right. No.
Brendan, can we make sure the minutes have the term old fart in it, please?
No,
Yeah.
no, you know. Clean that up.
I gotta take notes about my presentation.
Yes.
Because I was not typing.
Right. Okay. New business. Thank you, team, for up until this point. Thank you very much for the amount of work that you guys have put in. It's fairly impressive. It's fairly incredible. As far as new business is concerned, All I wanted to do is make mention again that the idea that came up last time, the mayor's office had a suggestion that we try to do a publication for in reference to our cemeteries as a souvenir book that might be sold for income purposes for the new library, to help the new library as a source of income to that fund. I don't know that I pushed the idea or tucked it away as being totally insignificant. It's not really. It is something that I think that I myself probably should pursue with the Historical Society, since I was on the board, and maybe the first thing that I could do is to try to generate a list of historical figures in the city of Marlborough who are buried in the city of Marlborough, and just get a list of names together just to see who's here. I mean, we had that big production for Robert Ames, the Revolutionary War hero. We had that, and you know, there are others that are buried here that you know, I'm sure people would be interested in pursuing. It's a future item, though. It's definitely a future item, and I would be willing to sort of take that one up.
You know, you brought this up before, Bob, and I think this was something that Pam mentioned too. This is great. I love the idea of obviously I'm self-serving here. I love the idea of a tie-in of a fundraiser piece for the public library.
Yeah.
But there was the issue of scope. Do we talk about just the city-owned cemeteries, or we bring in the ones that the Archdiocese owns as well? So I think that's just something that if you're working on it independently, that you understand, you make that call, whatever the decision is that you make, but that we just stick with it. Once it's
all right. Yeah. The decision that I would make is any cemetery within the bounds of the city of Marlborough, and that would include St. Mary's and the IC.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I just lay that out.
Hey, it's in the city. Why not?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So all I'm doing is I'm, for the record, bringing it up that is something that came up. It is something that I will, you know, take on as a project, and I will pursue. I want you to know that in the last 2 years, I think the city has spent almost $250,000 cleaning up and fixing cemeteries, some items in Maplewood, Rock Lawn, and then they did the Robert Ames event. That was, I think that was $40,000 just to clean up that little space. So it seems to me that the mayor is committed to at least doing that. The city is committed to doing it. And what the heck, cemeteries are the Historical Commission's purview. So I'll pursue that. Anybody else have anything to say that they want to add that I haven't already confused?
No, not at all.
No, I had the opportunities to put Steve Kerrigan under the bus tonight, so my day is.
Good
I've
for
been
you.
successful.
Good for you, Pamela.
Thank you.
Melanie,
Yes.
anything?
No, I'm fine.
All right. Nick?
Nothing to add.
All right. Good man, Charlie Brown.
Can we, I just have one thing before we adjourn. If we could adjourn the meeting officially and then hang 10, I have a question. It's probably for Steve.
Oh,
But I just want to, you know, before we all hang out, it's not related to the Historical Commission, but it's a city thing.
oh,
So Steve, could you hang on for a second?
Sure.
All right, I love it. All right, thanks, Bob. Go ahead.
all right. Do I do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Seconded. All right. All in
Okay,
favor?
wait, we got to do the roll.
Oh, please.
Okay, motion to adjourn at 8:07. Pamela,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Alan's not here. Brendan says yay.
Okay.
Approved.